just what we've been talking about today. So you and your brother were inspired by this VR thing in Austin, went for investors, looked at it. We just wanted like a couple $100,000. These guys raising billions. Why don't you light it on fire with working your ass off?
What time is it?
It's 10:30.
I mean, I don't know how long lunch is going to take, but
our lunches take a long time.
That's so
the
true.
first time we got together, it was, what were we at, like 2.5 hours, 2 hours?
I think so. It's
exactly like how when we met too, like a 5-minute computer exchange.
Yeah, just give me the computer. I'll give you the cash.
It's like a 2-hour life story therapy session.
Like, where did you go?
Did you drive to Oklahoma for this, right?
It was like one of those things, like, love at first sight. It was bros at first sight.
It really was. It really was. That was awesome. That was so great. That's like one of my favorite stories. I was telling Mark this story too.
No way, really?
He was like, "How'd you guys meet?" I was like,
Well, actually,
let me tell you. Yeah, this guy was telling me I was selling my computer for way too much money. So he was, talking shit before he even met me, and I was like, well, "Hey, he wants to buy the computer, so I'll just give it to him like that." And it worked out for the best.
You're like, this guy.
This guy.
You just knew it.
This guy. I could hear your laugh, how loud your laugh was on the Facebook DM. I could hear the loudness.
I'll go to Target and then I'll literally just have friends that will just like come up to me and be like, "I knew you were here," and I was like, "What?" And like, "I heard you. I was in the baby section and you're in the grocery section."
Like
and
the
I was
polar opposite side.
I know. I was
store.
like, "Are you really that loud?" And my wife's like, "Yeah, you are." She's like, "I was in Costco and I heard you from the bathroom and you were like all the way over on like the cash register." And I'm like, Costco's a loud place. I'm like, how'd you hear me? But it's not my fault though.
No,
okay?
But it makes you you. It's who you are. That's what I love about it.
When I was a baby, I didn't speak at all. I would just like flip through books apparently. And when I didn't talk a word, and like I was 3 years old and my grandparents came over, and because they lived in New Jersey, we're in Texas, so they fly in for Christmas and they're like looking at me, they're like, "There's something wrong with your child. There's this thing called autism. I think he's autistic." And I mean, this is obviously 31 years ago. Like, what is autism? And they're like, "What?" Like, no way. And then so my parents like got this inspiration to just pray over me while I slept as a 3-year-old, and they would pray over me and they would say like, "God, give him a voice, give him a voice." Like, and then before you know it, like I grow up. And now my mom's like, "Okay,
God, can you take his voice away?
You're going to be a preacher and you won't need to have a microphone." And I'm like, "It's not my fault. You guys prayed too much, okay?"
You prayed too hard, right? That is awesome.
It's just the full Italian coming out of me, and I guess I'm trying to make up for my childhood.
Wow, yeah, because all the time you didn't talk. Yeah, you got to make up for it. That's awesome. Dang, crazy story. So yeah, we're you have that background of not talking so much, and now you and your wife are running a massive social media account with a business that you guys own, which is really incredible because it seems like most people get one or the other one right, but you guys figured out how to do them both.
Yeah, it was a really cool journey because obviously growing a business is one thing, right? And my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad was a chiropractor. My mom helped run the business, and I always watched them run businesses, and so I was always inspired. I don't. It wasn't like I was like super young and I'm like, "I'm gonna be an entrepreneur." It was honestly, I remember just being in the pool with my dad in a summertime, and I probably was complaining about mowing the lawn or something like that because we had 15 acres, and so it would take the entire Saturday to mow a lawn.
Yeah, that's your whole day. That's your whole weekend.
Yeah, we would. We wake up at 8. He would get us up, we'd start mowing, and we wouldn't get done. My mom would like feed us pizza or whatever for lunch, and then we wouldn't get done till 5, like the sun's going down. It was like our whole Saturday. And I just remember like being in the pool, and he's like, "Well, when I was a kid, when I was your age, I used to mow all my neighbors' lawns." And I'm like, "Well, our closest neighbor is half a mile away. Like, do you want me to walk down there?" And we just got in this conversation about mowing lawns, and my brother and I were like, "Why not? Like, let's do this." He was, by the time we started it, he was 15, I was 13, And we took a loan out from my parents and bought the equipment that we needed. We paid them back. We had saved a lot of money because my parents would pay us for cleaning the chiropractic office as a kid.
Yeah.
Mowing the lawn. It wasn't a lot, but it was like, hey, $20 for going and cleaning the office, right? And it would take us, we had to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. We'd go clean the office. We get done at 7, right? So, I mean, they're saving money because they're not having to play a janitorial place. They got 7 kids. Of course they're gonna utilize us.
They built out their whole team right there. That's awesome.
Yes, exactly. That's what I tried to do. I'm like, I got my 5 kids.
Yeah.
I was like, we had some money saved, so we ended up like buying a lawn mowing equipment. We bought a $10,000 truck, and I negotiated like this whole truck deal. I remember sitting down, and my dad like,
how old were you?
I was 13 years old, and we bought it from a used cars dealership. And my dad was like, all right, because it was like the second time we were going. Yeah. He's like, he's gonna be like, this is my final offer. Like, I can't go any lower, and I want you to look at me and be like, Dad, can I just have a little bit more money? Because I don't have this. and talk. I didn't go to theater. I wasn't in a theater like you, bro. Well, I was like,
you learned in the real world.
This is real life theater. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so
that's way better training, dude.
He did exactly what my dad said. And right when he was like, well, he's like, guys, I can't go any lower than 11,000. And I was just like, sat there and it was like silence. And he was about to say something, and I go, Dad, I was like, I don't have that $1,000, but I promise you, like, I'll pay you back if you can just loan it to me. And he's like, I can't. And the guy's just like, all right, you can have it for $10,000.
Oh, man.
I was already manipulating people at 13 years old. I'm just kidding.
That is awesome.
I was playing the game, learning the game, you know?
Yeah, I hope this guy doesn't like run into this video at some point. It's just like, Trey owes me $1,000.
This kid. But I had to use that for lawn mowing equipment. Yeah. And so at 15 and 13-year-old, we put an ad in like the Allen magazine, and we had 25 clients within our first 2 months. And we called ourselves the Hardworking American Boys because this was in 2002. Oh, the spring of 2002. So literally, American
There's
boys.
American flags everywhere.
100%.
And,
Yep.
And you're in Allen too.
Yeah.
And, it's nice and red up there. So you gotta, you know your audience really well.
Oh my gosh. No, my mom came up with the name, and I was like, I'm like, all right, So, it was Hardworking American Boys.
Hardworking American Boys. It's the precursor to the Proud Boys, by the way. Now we know where they come from.
And it was just like the launch of our entrepreneurial journey.
Dude, that is so freaking cool. I did pressure washing with a friend.
Really?
Yeah, we did that. That was like our thing. I was never allowed to mow the lawns. My dad was a doctor. He's like, I've seen way too many legs chopped off and some glass that you run over hits you in the eye and blinds you for life. So he was like, you're never touching a lawnmower. It's like, okay, great.
He's like, I'll gladly pay someone else to take that risk.
Exactly. But we did the pressure washing thing. That was really fun too.
That actually is pretty good money too.
Yeah. Because you do driveways and you measure how much it is and you just charge accordingly.
Is that a one-time only customer, or is it kind of like,
hey,
I need it every 6 months?
That's the problem. It's very seasonal.
Yeah.
It's like once a year, once every 6 months. Mm-hmm. With lawns, it's consistent. Yeah. It's like twice a month, once a week, whatever it is. So, and if we had connected 20 years ago, that would have been a lesson I would have learned from you, was to find something, how to make it not so seasonal. Make it like a monthly or a weekly or a bi-monthly need.
Yeah, true.
Yep.
So true, that reoccurring. Yeah, it was because like obviously then in summertime it's like where you're mowing all the lawns, and then wintertime you're just completely cut and dry, right? And so then we got into
did you do Christmas lights? Yeah. I was gonna say that's such a great pivot that like any landscaping company does in the winter. It's so genius, and like it's so cool to see them so busy when they're when the grass is literally dead. So they got something else to do, and they make a lot of money doing that. It's awesome. It's really cool.
And you already have your
same customers, same ones.
And then you're just like, do you have a friend or your neighbor? And it's just like, it just kind of snowballs from there. But I remember I have no idea. It was like a kid daycare place. We mowed their lawn. Yeah. And I'm putting up their Christmas lights. And I'm like, this is my first year putting up Christmas lights. I'm buying them from Home Depot. Apparently, the professional Christmas lights you do not get from Home Depot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and this is a commercial building that I'm trying to put it all around this place. And after you connect like 3 string lights, you can't connect a 4th because like the fuse in the string light
the
blows.
power is gonna
And so I'm like, how do they do this? So I have all these like cords that are running up their whole building. It's probably not like compliant or anything like that, but you figure it out, right? You figure it out. And then like the next year I'm like, I did that completely wrong. But I was hanging off there. They have this pavilion where like all the cars drive through to drop off the kids. And I have my friend tying an extension cord around my waist. And I'm like down all the way down the pavilion at the very edge, like putting in the lights. And this is a pavilion, right? And he's on the top and I'm holding, and I'm not holding on to nothing, just this extension cord that's wrapped around my waist. And we're 40 feet in the air, it's essentially like 2 stories up. Like the craziest things you do, and you're like, no fear, just get it done.
Dude, childhood was so different 20 years ago, like being a teen.
Your dad wouldn't even let you mow the lawn.
I imagine him saying,
let alone hang halfway across the roof.
That is awesome, man.
Oh my gosh.
What do you think that taught you as a business owner? I mean, that all that experience of owning the lawn business and hanging lights with an extension cord, holding you for dear life, and like I imagine that's shaped you in a way. Owning your business, running your business, like growing, exploding on social media, all this and that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's my personality or if it taught me, but it's my already, nature or nurture, right? Was I born this way or was I developed this way, over time? Maybe it was like I took it to heart. My mom always said, like, you'll never know. Like, don't just test the water, like with your pinky toe, like jump in and then figure out how cold it is, right?
Yep.
And then learn to swim or whatever it is, right? She's like, you're not going to learn to swim by dipping your toe in the water. And so I think that kind of stuck with me, or maybe it's my personality that I was like, let's go. Like I'll buy these from Home Depot, these lights. Well, that didn't work. Okay, let's get more extension cords.
Yep.
All right.
Well, like now okay, I'm never buying them from Home Depot again. I'm not going to do it this way.
Yeah, someone's like, why don't you get them at the pro shop? And you're like, oh, right? And it's like you're swimming. You're just swimming. And so I think working with a business, working with customers, trying to figure out, if I keep mowing the lawn, they don't pay me. Like I guess I need to have a window where it's like, hey, you don't pay us after 2 months. We're not going to continue paying. We're not going to continue mowing your lawn, thinking that you're going to pay us at some point.
Right.
So like all these you just start learning this customer service. You start learning, systems was like something I didn't learn till later on, and it was honestly my 2023 journey. I think with that book that you gave me, the E-Myth.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was like, I am such that 3-part person resonated with me so much because I am such the entrepreneur. Like
me too.
Let's just go.
Yeah.
Let's just go. You buy my plane ticket. I'm there, right? Let's just go. And then the manager is screaming this, and I feel like you kind of have this bipolarness inside you already.
Yeah,
a technician as well. So a 3-polarness.
A 3-polar, a tripolar.
A tripolar. Yeah. And I'm like 80%, 90% entrepreneur that I really had to feed my manager systems side last year. And because I never really had good systems my whole life. It was just flying by the seat of your pants, put out the fires.
There's a brashness to that though, that accelerates growth and learning and success. And I mean, you're probably not scared to do anything, right? Yeah. And that's at least the personality vibe that I get from you whenever I'm around you. You're just never afraid, and it rubs off really well on me. Well, and that's a great thing to have because a lot of people don't. But I can also see how it can be like.
But then it's like, where's the side that brings you?
Right.
Because
you can't be that 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Because
okay. So here's a interesting story. Is I was going. We wanted to bring on IV nutrition at our med spa. And so I went to a class about all these. Essentially, you could get your IV certification, but it was like a conference type thing. I'm taking this conference, and there's a bunch of booths there. So during break, I'm talking to the booths, okay, what are the cool technologies out here? And I stumbled upon this stem cell booth, and And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is kind of cool. Like, what can it do? And I'm very new to stem cells. And the next day I'm going to the conference and I'm listening to a podcast, and Tony Robbins is on the podcast and he's talking about all this stuff. And at the very end of the podcast, the guy's talking about, all right, Tony, like, what's your next big thing? And he goes, my next big thing is stem cells. Like, stem cells is going to change the world. And I was like, this is a sign from God that I'm supposed to get into stem cells. You know, I'm like, it's going to be the next big thing. It's going to change the world.
Yeah.
And so I immediately, like, right before, I didn't even attend like the first hour of the conference, I'm like talking to the booth. I'm like, okay, how do I do this? What do I do? Like, all this kind of stuff. He gets me the whole list. I go to their seminar on stem cells and all this stuff. They're like, okay, well, you need the marketing package. So I buy the marketing package. I ended up I ended up maxing out our credit card and using some of our, line of credit. Honestly, I probably maxed out our line of credit too.
Jeez.
I like $80,000. Like, I was like all in on stem cells.
Yeah.
And I remember the, manager said to me like, oh, you should run this by some friends, make sure it's right. And I remember like calling 2 friends and being like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And they were like, well, like, is it true? Like, how do you know? Because I was thinking, this is going to be the new thing for skincare, right? We're going to inject this in your face. All your wrinkles are going to go away, right? This is going to turn back the clock. And they're like, how do you know? And so they were throwing up some like doubt. And I'm like, and then I just blew it off. It's like, you don't understand the science.
Yeah.
You don't understand it. Like, they're like, well, how many other people are doing it? I'm like, no one. Like, is that concerning to you? And I'm like, no, I'll be the first one.
Yeah.
I'm
ahead of this thing, right? Yeah.
And like I can do this. And so I ended up like, I threw on like little mini seminars for like clients. I invited everyone to a dinner, I threw on, and I sold 0. I got one lady that was a friend of a friend to do it at cost. And then I got my medical director's ex-husband. They still had a decent relationship.
Yeah.
She was like, "Well, try on him." And so I did 2 people like at cost. And then I'm doing all these seminars, all this marketing, all this stuff. And I kind of follow up with them like a month later, and they're like, "No, I don't really see any changes." And I'm like, "What?" And then like I'm trying to sell these people on it, and no one's biting on it, no one's wanting it, and it was like. And then we ended up folding the whole thing.
Wow.
Closing up, like, not obviously the BOHO, but with
that
side
department,
of,
side of things.
Like,
when did all that go down?
That had to have been right before COVID.
Okay, it's 2019, 2020.
Yeah, 2019, I think it was.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, I literally blew through all this money in 9 months, took all these classes, seminars. I went to learn how to speak so I could do these seminars.
Invested all this time, effort, said no to things, said yes to all this.
That's where, to bring it back to like I'm a very fast start. Like, I just jump and I like learn how to swim. And then sometimes you don't swim.
Yeah.
Tis the question. And so I think like that, you as an entrepreneur, like, you have to understand, like, there's an emotional side of things that you just believe in your heart that it's going to work out. And you don't want anybody to put that fire out. You don't want anyone to tell you no. And so even if they bring up questions, you're going to be like,
do you feel that way? Because I feel this a lot whenever I like share an idea with somebody and they question it, or they say like, I don't know about that. You feel like your momentum just like why are you stopping my momentum, bro? Like, I'm on fire right now and I need you to say yes, right?
Yeah.
Like, over the years I've learned that what to look at it as objectively as possible, and to identify if they're being objective or subjective, and how that should help me out with how I move forward or progress on something. Because very recently I had something come up where I shared an idea with somebody and they were like, I don't know if that's a great thing, and I've sold 3 of them in the last 4 days. Of this specific way that I'm engaging with realtors, loan officers, entrepreneurs.
Well, this person that you asked, like, would they be a potential client? And they're saying like, I don't know. Cause I guess like cause like you do have to understand that, like, I think it was like Henry Ford was like, instead of the horse and carriage, let's have these pistons and this motor and this, and people just wanted a faster horse they didn't know that they wanted a car.
Right.
And so I think like there's that aspect of, that's the wrong people to be asking.
100%. And so that's what I banked on was I'm talking to the wrong person. So let me just go talk to the right people with this and we'll see what happens. And thankfully I did. And so now it's like, okay, now what do they all have in common? How do I find more of these people? That's the trick now. Cause now I know the product, it works, or the service that I'm offering, it's needed.
Exactly. Or almost like starting small, right? Like it didn't, I don't know what it was, right? But it didn't cost you that much to be like, okay, I'm going to just put this, I'm going to package my services maybe this way or whatever. And then it's like, oh, these people like that, right? But it wasn't like $80,000 in and all this time, right? And it's like, you really got to know people want it, and you really got to know that it works or whatever it is, right?
Correct. Yeah. And that's what I'm doing a lot more right now is I'm offering free shoots. I'm offering free edits. I'm offering free advice, because I want to kind of give you like a test drive of the car before you decide to buy it. Because if you test drive it, the odds are that you're going to like it and you're going to keep it for a long time.
Yeah, so true.
Versus just like jumping into a car and then immediately when you drive off the dealership, you're regretting your decision, and it's like, well, I can't really refund you because you already paid. And like,
you drove it off the lot.
Yeah, you drove it off the lot. So, I can only give you this much back.
Yeah.
Rather just, I never want people to feel like they're buying with pressure, and that it's their decision, because it is their decision at the end of the day. And just making sure that, both parties, it's a win for both of us, and so, I'm like offering the free sort of like the test drive, where you get a taste of it, and it still solves a problem. It has been super helpful.
And what's your success rate on like free to then them signing up?
It's a recent thing that I've been doing.
Okay.
If they're qualified, I'm almost at 100%.
Wow.
It's pretty awesome.
So essentially it's you qualifying that person and then being like, okay, I know if I just give them a little taste.
And actually just do what I say I'm going to do, which is I'm going to edit, I'm going to give you 8 videos and they're going to look great, and I'm going to tell you how to post them, and then that's it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And then the challenge has definitely become qualifying, and just making sure I'm talking to the right people. And that's I feel like we try and overcomplicate things so much as business owners and entrepreneurs, where when I'm marketing something, or I'm selling something, or I'm talking about what I do, it's either the offer has to be good or I have to talk to the right people, and that's it. So like if I'm talking to the right people and the offer sucks, well, then make the offer better.
That's true.
If the offer is great and the people aren't biting, well, I'm talking to the wrong people. And so it's just those two variables. I just feel like every day I'm kind of like tinkering with those two, experimenting every day and being like, how can I make, right. So right now, offer's great, talking to the right people, great. Now now I go all in and step on the gas.
Yeah.
Versus old me would have been like, I'm going to go with this offer to 1,000 people and go, balls to the walls, all out, see what happens. Yeah. And then be like, oh, it's been 6 months and like nothing happened. You know what I mean?
So
or 3
true.
months and nothing's happened.
So true.
Kind of like small, and then boom, hit the gas.
And that's definitely
the big change.
I feel like right way of go about doing it is like small wins. My brother and I were really interested. Have you ever like done those virtual reality games?
I've seen them like they have one like at North Park at the mall.
Well, there's one actually right around here, Beltline in Dallas Tollway, called Zero Latency. It's a company out of Australia, and the way that their technology is supersedes every VR experience that we've ever done. And my brother drove the state and did every single VR experience in Texas. There was one at the end of our thing that they just opened up in Austin. Haven't done them, but we did the holoscapes. We did the ones where you're like running in this little ball.
The little ball, yeah.
Yeah, we did all of them. And that little one that you're like running in like made me so nauseous, because the thing is like, it's so hard to get right. When you step, the thing moves, right? It moves with you. And Zero Latency does that very well. There is no latency. You feel like you're really in the thing, and like you have to walk up this board to get to the roof, and you're fighting all these zombies and stuff like that.
And you're literally like in this little like pod, right? It's like a little circle thing.
No, you're in a room.
Oh,
you're in a room,
whoa.
but it obviously maps out the room, and so that you have to have a certain square foot of room.
Oh, okay, so it's
right?
Like it's the right square footage.
It's right square footage.
Okay,
right. You can't do this like in your house type thing.
Okay, yeah.
So and like you walk up a beam, and the glasses move up. Like it feels like I'm walking up something. How do you get that visual experience while you're walking just on a flat surface? It is amazing. And so my brother and I were like, after we did it the first time, we're like, is this a franchise? We want to open this, right? We want to bring this to Allen where we're at. And we went through this whole process of trying to get this process going, opened up. We contacted the company. They're like, okay, this is what you need. We were getting investors. We needed like $350,000 to essentially open. And we were being coached by my uncle that runs, essentially kind of has his own investment firm, and he invests in businesses and stuff like that. So he was coaching us on like, okay, business plan, how to get investors, all that stuff, because he was an investor in all these other businesses. He knows how to do it, how to pitch and all that kind of stuff. So we developed this whole program with him. I called everybody like I knew, and we sit down. We get like 3 investors interested. We essentially have raised, it was like $20,000 each person. So we've raised like $60,000. But the thing was like, everyone's question was like, is it going to succeed? Like, how are we going to get our money back? And we're like, well, it's already worked over there. And my uncle was always like, can you start small? Instead of like getting because you couldn't have any pillars in the building. So it almost had to be like a warehouse type thing.
Yeah, like a big open space, right?
Yeah, because like, you can't have a wall that's a supporting structure.
Right.
And so it had to be a specific type of
like
retail
an airplane hangar style,
almost.
right?
It didn't
like
have to be that big, but almost like a lot of the retail spaces were too thin because they're the supporting structure. So it was like, he's like, can you guys just start small? Like, instead of needing $350,000, can you do it for 50, right?
Like a proof of concept, or like see if it works in a small space.
And I think that was like, we ended up not raising the money. And the guy that was in Addison ended up coming to Plano, and we were too close that we couldn't open up essentially in Allen. Yeah. And we're like, we don't want to drive out to Anna, like, or have to open up in Sherman. We're like, so we just like, you know what, essentially, we spent a year on it. We had some momentum going, and then it just stopped. But I think what I learned from that would be, and all our investors had the same question. It was like, it'd be way easier, just like you, have that proof of concept and have something small, and then launching, especially unless you're maybe like, I don't know, I'm like, sometimes like, how did these tech companies, like, have you ever watched WeWork on like, WeWork, but have you ever watched it on Hulu?
No, the story. I mean, I know the whole story, but I haven't seen the show.
Oh my goodness. Like, it is very inspiring. And it was very lessons learned on how they essentially, like, I think they got valued, their highest valuation was like $53 billion.
Gazillion dollars. Yeah.
And
I've been into WeWorks, and like, they're always empty. So it's like, how are these places worth this much money?
I know.
Yeah. So correlating that experience with just what we've been talking about today. So you and your brother were inspired by this VR thing in Austin, went for investors, looked at it.
So that's what I'm like, obviously, WeWork kind of had a proof of concept, but they just went crazy on like investors pouring money into them. And I'm always was like, how do you get that investors into like small companies? Like, we just wanted like a couple $100,000. These guys raising billions. And you know, like what's the other show with Amanda Seyfried about it happened. Is that The Lab?
Yeah, it was like the pill that cures everything, or the shot that cures everything, and it was all a hoax. It's like that girl from Stanford who dropped out. Yes. And she raised like $1 bazillion too.
Yeah. I'm like, these people like must be beautifully, like, they must articulate a beautiful vision that is so inspiring that people just like, I'm in.
Like the Fire Festival guy too.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
I love it. And then like the Inventing Anna girl. Like, a lot of these people just want to shut off these people. Like, they did really dumb things. Like, they raised a lot of money that they probably shouldn't have raised. But we can learn so much from these people.
So true.
Like, if you have conviction when you walk into a room, and you can own a room, and you know how to talk to people,
it's a skill set.
It's a skill. It's an absolute skill. Because these people don't have, like, they all dropped out of college, immigrants, came from low income families or mid income families. Like, they weren't all super rich. Some of them were definitely like spoon fed and wealth. But the point is, like, they were all able to figure out how to talk to people to get what they wanted. Manipulative. Obviously, if we can use that for good, then that's obviously much better.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny kind of how you phrase that, like, it's a learned skill set. Because my friend, I was working out with my friend, and he runs a big company as well. And he's like, I asked him one question. I was like, what's a skill set you wish you had? And he looks at me and he's like, I wish I had your skill set. And I was like, boy, what's that? And he's like, he goes, we're working out. And he's like, like 5 people, or like the front desk person, she's all like, hey Trey, and then like the fitness trainer, this workout guy, this workout girl, they're always like, oh hey Trey. The guy in the background, no one knows my name. Like because I never had that skill set to be like, oh hey, or whatever it is. And it's like, you don't do it obnoxiously either.
Yeah.
It's not like they're working out, it's like, oh hey, what are you doing? Right? And he's like, I don't know how you just attract these people. And he's like, and it's like you're really good at that. And I'm like, wow. I was like, thanks, Jorge. I appreciate this compliment right now. And he goes, but it was a skill set I never had to practice. You were homeschooled, right? You probably, and he's like, you're homeschooled. You didn't have like the public school friends. Like you had to go
and
create.
You're one of the most social people I think I've ever met. Yeah, so boom, that rumor, that what is it?
The belief that homeschoolers,
that belief is shot.
Yeah, the homeschoolers, man. But no, I think it's like I had to develop that skill set. Like, I was in a group, and I was like, and I have to go make friends right now. And he's like, I never had to make friends. Like, I was the popular kid in high school.
Wow.
When I moved, he's from Ecuador. He's like, when I moved to the States, like I was like, I would go party, and everybody was like, oh, like I want a piece of, like the girls were like, I want a piece of this, foreign guy. And he's like, I was like, all right, come on, like
he was like Fez in that '70s show, basically, like pretty much, just everyone loved
exactly.
him. And,
you never had to be like,
had to work
for this interaction of creating connection, and now he's like, and I'm an adult, and I'm like. He's like, and I have his business, and it's like the hardest thing for me to network and to connect with people. And I'm like, he's like, it's just a skill set. And I'm like, so going back to these people, they were tested by fire, right? To probably develop these skill sets as young teenagers, all these things. And now look at them. And I think that's what I want to do for my kids. When you think about, and I think I heard Alex Hormozy talking about, like, if you think about raising the perfect human being, tests and trials to, test their leadership, test their communication skills, test how they're able to problem solve, and all these things. And that pressure on them is going, and obviously, like, you gotta account for how much pressure, but that pressure on someone is going to make them sink or swim, and they're going to then fail and learn from it, or they're going to succeed and learn from it.
The benefit now is you're there to be able to hold them up when they're
and you can do that as a parent. Be like, oh, well, I got you when you failed, right?
Yep.
But obviously, like, let them learn from their
failures.
In a way,
it starts to hurt a little bit.
But I think Gen Z generation, you see, like, everybody wins, right?
Nobody loses.
There's no fear of failure because daddy and mommy got you. And like with my kids, they're Gen Alpha, and that's like, I'm like, I will not be like. I'd take away the medals whenever they win last. They get last place. I'm like, no, you didn't get third, second, or first. So give me that medal and throw it in the trash.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh,
where was it? Was it Kobe? One of those. I think it was Kobe with his daughter's team when they got like second place in a basketball tournament. They got destroyed by this team, and they like got their second place stuff, and he was just like, nope, we're not accepting this. We're coming back next year and winning.
Wow.
And we're training all year to win. And then this is like the year before he passed away. They came back and won by like 80 points. Like they just destroyed the team.
My goodness.
Because don't rest on your laurels. Don't rest on the second place mentality. And that's been a tough one for me with my kids, is teaching them how to lose. That's hard. I feel like I lost a lot in life and all my sports and all that stuff. I was never like on win. I thankfully was a good athlete, in basketball and all that, but we never won anything. Teams were never great. And so I had
you were in a very small school.
Yeah.
Very small school.
So
almost homeschooled.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much homeschooled. But lost a lot. So I feel like I take losses really well because I've just been used to losing.
Are you still though very competitive?
Yeah.
Do you feel like every entrepreneur spirit is very competitive? Or is it kind of like, it doesn't really correlate?
There has to be a sense of wanting to win, wanting to be the best you can be. I don't know. I think I unfortunately learned it later in life than I should have. I spent way too much time in my 20s kind of figuring things out without a purpose. I've been given a very good hand in life. A good deal in life. I have awesome parents who've supported me a lot.
Yeah.
They sent me to a great school. I met my wife there, married, 4 kids. They've helped me a lot in my life. And it wasn't until about this summer of 2023 when I was 33 years old. Like I learned it way too late. But I'm glad I learned it now, that like I owe it to so many people that have helped me get to this position to give this 100%, you know? There's so many people in the world who I think would kill to be in a position where I was, where I got to grow up the way I grew up, got to do a lot of the great things that I got to do growing up, have a family, all this and that. So I can't squander it. It's like the parable of the 10 talents where, you know, God gives you the talents and when he comes back and he wants to see a return.
Yeah.
And I lived my life in my 20s very much like, oh, I just buried it here and I left it buried for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, I owe it to my family, like my wife and kids, to take what I've been given and to multiply it, you know?
When you talk about like people have helped you along the way, what did that look like? Like, because there's some things where I think in my 20s, I had nothing, right? I was dirt poor. I was living off credit cards all the time, right? Because I had 3 kids by the time I was 25, right?
Wow.
Yeah. 22, 20, I was 20. Yeah. I was I guess my 25th year going to be about to be 26, 3 kids. So I remember early on I would go like, I always had this idea of, oh, you know, you're the average of what the 5 people you hang around.
Yeah.
So I'd always try and hang around. Like I would always try and like attach myself to like rich people, right? Cause I wanted to be rich. Right. And I remember like my first year of like, I had this expectation that you're rich. Why don't you pay for our lunch? Right. It doesn't cost you anything. It's going to cost me this plus 26% because I can't pay off my credit card debt right now. Right. And it was such a bad mentality that I look back on it. And I had learned after a year, I'm like, Trey, you can't be having this. Like if you're wanting to go out to lunch with people, like you are paying for them. Right.
Yep.
No matter how much in debt you are.
No matter how much it hurts you.
Yeah. And it's like, it's going to be nothing. It's pennies for them or whatever. Right. And it's going to cost you way more, but you are there to learn from them and you're taking up their time. Thus it's worth more than the lunch that you're paying for.
Yeah.
I think like this mentality of like, oh, I'm not where I'm at because people aren't helping me, because people didn't help me in my 20s. Like my parents got divorced when I was 22, just married, had my first kid in there. I was living in their guest house. And they wanted me to pay rent. You know, it was like $500 a month, but still like pay rent. And I was going to a chiropractic school, and I was like, man, I don't have any money. Like, come on, parents, like help me out here. But my dad's like, well, I got to pay rent because I'm moving out. Like, I need that money now. And I'm like, oh, it was like this frustration. And then I finally like start making some money selling alarm systems. And my wife and I, we move out. Because my mom was selling the house, so we had to move out, and we start renting a house in Allen, and I'm like trying to work and put my kids into like a Mother's Day Out program, and I'm like, I remember asking my mom like, hey, like I can only afford 2 days a week, can you pay for like a third or even fourth day? And she's like, I'm paying for your sister's car, like I can't pay for that too. And I'm like, it's an extra $150 a month, and I'm like, those extra, you know, because you got like 4 hours on like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday or something like that, right? And I'm like, that would help me like get along with my career or make more sales or do something. And it was like my whole life, like no one really ever helped me, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever took like bitterness to it. I don't blame my mom for it. Like she had her debt and issues that she was going through with the divorce. Like totally fine with that. My dad ended up like having no money and stuff like that. So I was like, you're just trying to survive right now. It's amazing how divorce just ruins not just like the relationships, but also like your finances. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, they like my parents, their divorce cost them almost like $100,000 because it was a terrible divorce. Anyways, but like going back to like how people helped you, I think there's there's getting lucky. But I don't rely on people helping me, and I don't rely on luck.
Yeah, right? I unfortunately did for a long time.
Yeah.
And then when I finally put my head together and realized, like, if you're already lucky, why don't you light it on fire with working your ass off?
Hard work is the gasoline to that fire.
Like and that's where I feel like I just like I don't want to say I wasted a lot of time in my 20s, you know, because I got married. I have 4 kids. I got to work on really cool projects. I got to learn and grow. But there were definitely missed opportunities where I could have, worked really hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm grateful I'm doing that now because now a normal week for me is if bringing back Hormozy, he's someone who I've listened to a lot in the past year. I do not feel like I'm done with my day until there is literally nothing else for me to do.
Wow.
Where if I work on it, it'll be more of a detriment than an addition to whatever project or whatever client I'm working on, whatever that is. So I don't set like, okay, I'm going to go to the office from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and blah, blah, blah. Today, for example, is a day like I have it in my week to week routine where I have one day where my wife will not see me till tomorrow.
Wow.
Because I'm gonna be out all day at the office, taking meetings, hitting my leads, talking to clients, all that stuff, getting projects through to my different contractors, and just making sure, because I do not feel like I've succeeded in the day until there's nothing left to do.
How long have you been doing that?
It's been about 5 months.
Do you feel like
5-6 months?
You feel like you're making like huge progress?
The first 5 months, I saw zero progress. I'll be completely honest with you. I saw zero progress, and I've hit rock bottom before. This felt like rock bottom. It felt like rock bottom again because I was like, I'm putting so much freaking work in and I'm not seeing the results. Yeah. But like, if this was easy, everybody would be doing it. If being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, doing your own thing, if it was that easy, like there would not be companies with giving people jobs. Like everyone would be doing this. Yeah. And so I had to constantly tell myself every day for those 5 months, this is normal. This is normal. This is fine, because now you have a direction. Now you have goals. Now you have, now you have, you're increasing your network. Now you're meeting people. Now you're meeting the right people. Yeah. So if it takes time, it takes time. That's fine. Yeah. And versus old me, which is very much like, oh, kind of like putts around and see what happens. Yeah. Now it's like, I know exactly what the benchmarks are. I know what the goals are. I know my goals are long. I'm not, my goals are very like next year, the year after. So as long as I'm trending in the right direction, I'm fine. But it took 5 months. Wow. Of just building and grow and working, where like now in the 6th month, I'm seeing the results and it's freaking awesome. Wow. And it's funny too, because like in those 5 months, lost 40% of my clients one time. Then 2 weeks ago, literally lost another 40% of my clients after I had made up like the numbers for it to work out. Yeah. Just out of nowhere, pulled out of my rug, lost 7 clients in one day, all in one day. This was like 2 weeks ago. So I cried for a minute, right? I cried for a minute because you always got to take time. Yeah. So instead of it taking a week to cry, I cried for 1 minute. Yeah. And I said, all right, the work needs to get done. Yeah. And it's been 2 weeks and I've already made up half the money. And I know by the end of the month I'll make up all of it and more. So so it's fine, Yeah. And so that's what I mean is it took 5 months and then throwing in those really dumb situations in, telling myself this is part of the process. It is okay because you have a goal, you have a plan, you're going in a direction. As long as you're not staying put, like there is no way that putting in 60, 70 hours a week of the right work does not lead to results. Yeah. And I'm seeing it firsthand live right now, thankfully, where, I'm seeing the results from all the hard work that's been put in for the last 5-6 months. Wow. And what it's made me do is double down. Wow. Which is awesome. Because old me would have been like, all right, let's celebrate. Let's pop some bottle of champagne. Let me take the kids to Disney to celebrate. Yeah. And then like rest on my laurels for a couple months and then have to redo the whole thing all over again because I spent all my money. New me is, this is season to work. This is 90 days, 6 months of going hard. Hard. Yeah. And, I've set my goals, my numbers for this year and just reverse engineer the work that it's going to take to get there. I wonder if I'll state this first before I ask a question, is I wonder if that is a season that's necessary. My mom had over, he was like the president of, it was a Sheraton in Dallas. Like he owned all the Sheratons in Dallas. Oh, cool. Yeah. And he had him over for dinner and super old guy, right? Yeah. And my mom was like, what is like the number one thing that, you would give to someone running a business? And he's like, well, there's 3 things. He's like, work hard. And then there's work hard. And then the third thing, which is most important, work hard. I did that like in my 20s. Like I wanted to be a health coach. I went to chiropractic school. I dropped out. I became a functional medicine, certified in functional medicine. I became a human performance coach. I married the two so that I could understand like the root cause issues, how to do lab tests, and get people to a higher performance. And so I wanted to bring that and be a health coach. And so
I'd wake up at 5 a.m, make myself a coffee, work on my website, go to 7 a.m., networking things. And it lasted like 3 months, and I completely just burnt myself out, even though it's something I loved. Like I just burnt myself out and I couldn't do it anymore. And I don't know if it's genetically me or if what it is, but looking back on it, I've realized that entrepreneurship life is like a river, right? It's like the river can start in Canada or whatever, but it's trying to get to the Gulf.
Right.
Right. And it branches in so many different directions. And sometimes we think that, that's where I want to go, is this branch over here. And you can't see the, 60-foot view and like where it's all going, but you're like, this is where it's at. And so you're trying to paddle going this way. And you're like, this wasn't the way that I wanted it to go.
So now you got to go upstream back to the first one, or what?
Which is actually interesting, because you can split that concept and be like, it's almost like God says, all right, well, here's the path back to easy. It's almost like that. It's almost like, cool. Well, right when you make that decision, it's like, well, you can split back and go to this route or this route and continue, or you can go back to a bigger flow of like, this is where I wanted. And that's when I was like, you know what? You could say like you didn't push hard enough. You didn't work hard enough. You could say that, because maybe I could be like the best coach in the world right now, right? Yeah. If I would have kept pushing, I don't know. But what I do know is I love my life right now, and I'm so glad I made a decision to team up with my wife.
Yep.
All right. And I teamed up with my wife, and I helped her grow her business, because I had just entrepreneurial background. I had my landscape company. I owned a massage establishment from 18. I ran it for 6 years. And then now I'm helping my wife out with her med spa, right? It came easy. It was like, I didn't have to work so hard. Like obviously work, but it wasn't like wake up at 5 a.m. With Alex Hermosi, it's saying like, going back to, your day's over when you don't have any more tasks. I can kind of see that for a season.
Yeah, but 100%. 100%.
My friend that runs his company's probably worth like $20 million, right? I was in the car, we were driving to go play pickleball, and I get a text from a guy that we're trying to have like a little like group. He has another company that's really big, and I'm always trying to like get us all together, like talk business and have a little mastermind. And it was his idea in the first place to have like a little mastermind of entrepreneurs. I'm like, hey, I have a buddy, let's all meet up. Yeah. But every time I'm like, hey, let's do lunch this week. Like, I'm in Austin. Okay, let's do lunch here. And then like the day before, guys, I gotta fly out, and we have to get some parts, like the technician, like we're low on these AC things, and I'm like, and it was like literally like 4 times, and we had a meeting set up for the next day, and he texts me, and I'm in the car with him. I'm like, he canceled it again, and I was like, this guy is just so busy, and I'm like, is that kind of like what it is, like when you like get past, because it's probably like at least a $10 million company. I was like, once you get past 10 million, it's like, is it like just you're always working? And my friend looks at me and goes, no, he just doesn't know how to run a business.
Yeah, I hope not. That means he's way too much into his business.
Yeah.
Like with that much money, you should have people that run the business for you. Like it's a who thing.
Exactly.
At that point, right?
And he was like, he just doesn't know how to do business.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then going back to like the E-Myth, like it's the systems that you put around people. Right. But he was doing the people in the system, right?
And where I'm at right now with me is, I'm building the system and I am the system at the same time. So I don't have the luxury of saying, cool, I can only put in 10 hours this week. So true. And that's the point, is like I'm building to that goal so that by the end of this year, I have that built. And I have it not just built, but where the money can support the factory that I've built, let's say.
Do you have a virtual assistant?
I do right now. Yeah. I have a virtual assistant, 2 interns, and like five domestic and international editors that help me with everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then when did you hire your virtual assistant? How long have you had her? Him?
Actually, because of everything that like happened with me, she's taking like a little couple months sabbatical.
Oh, nice.
Until I get the business back and then get her back in, because I had to kind of make up all the lost money that happened. Yeah. It was crazy.
Oh man, so that sucks that you're going through that. But
but I know, but like that's what's different now is like I know. Okay, now I lost 7. Okay, let's go get 14 this month.
Yes,
and I know how.
Yeah.
So it's just this worked.
I love that.
This worked now. Okay, let me double down on this, And so for me, it's like, I'll get there at the end of the month. I'm not worried. You know what I mean?
And you're okay with that journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm totally fine with it.
Because then the business always kind of like, it'll happen again.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I got through it then, I can get through it now. And you build out into that confidence of that journey.
Yep.
And that's what I always keep telling my wife. Like literally just 3 months ago, we're like, how are we going to pay payroll? You know, like things were really drying up. And I'm like, well, when we figure this out, one, we'll be able to, when it happens again, we like, this is, we need to pivot marketing. We need to pivot this we need to cut the fat. Because sometimes like in your business, you have so much fat.
Oh, dude, my wife and I sat through ours, and I was like, I don't want to say the number. There was a lot that I'm just like, what am I paying for this?
Exactly.
Like, what am I getting? It's either an asset or a liability to my business. And if it's an asset, keep it. If it's a liability, if it's not making me money, cut it.
So true.
That was awful.
And it's such a good exercise to go through.
It's every month, every quarter.
Oh, wow.
Least. Yeah. Every month, every quarter.
I need to do it. I need to do it every month, every quarter. Yeah. But it was such a good thing, because I'm like, well, now it's like, okay, now we need to know what to do next time this happens. And then you know how to, if someone asks you like, oh my gosh, I'm going through this hard time, and you're going to be like, well, I can't relate to you. Just keep working or whatever it is, because you never went through a hard time. Like this helps you help other people.
100%.
And you're like, and I'm like, this is the beauty of figuring it out. Right.
Yeah. Because now I figured it out. So then when someone else it's like, oh, just let me hear. Okay, great. Do this. Like, have you looked at this? You know, it helps. It helps a lot.
So true.
Saves time.
So I think with like any kind of business, just you're going to have all these ups and downs, and it's just loving the journey, kind of like what Gary Vee talks about. Yeah. Like as long as you love that journey,
yeah, exactly.
You'll make it out okay.
Yep.
And that's what I've come to really love this year. But going back to like the virtual assistant, personal assistant, I don't know. I would say with anybody watching this, that was probably the best thing I ever did in my business, was hire a personal assistant. And I hired a personal assistant. She worked with me in my office. She was really good, and I passed off so many tasks to her. But then again, like I didn't really have the systems in place. So she was doing busy work just like I was doing busy work, right? So there's a beautiful thing of like creating the system that you're doing now, and then being like, here's the system, this is how you do it. Now do this.
Train her on the system. Exactly. Okay, now you can oversee the system in whatever.
Exactly. And I think like there's a book called Automate Your Busy Work. And I think if you focus on like automating, systematizing, and then passing and then delegating. Right. And instead of, I think I started delegating, but it was a huge asset to me because I got all this busy work off my plate. Right. And I was able to then get into more of a creative space. But then after like 4 months, she quit and took a higher paying job. And I got so depressed for like 3 days.
Well, yeah.
Like I was like
square one.
I was like, yeah, that's what I felt like. I'm like, I'm back to square one. And it was, and then I was like, I kept on getting this like magic assistant like advertisement. And so I was like, for a virtual assistant, so I'm like, all right, I'll try it out. And so there's a bunch of companies, Shepherd, there's a bunch of companies out there, but I went with Magic and they found me an assistant. It was $10 an hour. You know, I started off part-time, and I was like, how can a virtual assistant really help me out? And she was able to take off so much off my plate. I quickly increased her to full-time, 40 hours a week. And then I essentially just kind of onboarded her with me because I'm like, you deserve more pay, because they're just paying her $5 an hour, you know?
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, so I brought her on, and I was like, I'm paying you $10 an hour. Like, let's run. Yep. And I've given her increases from there. Like, it is the like breath of fresh air. And if I didn't go through that, like, I come back at square one. I don't have my assistant.
You would have never ended up with that.
I would never ended up with someone who is like one of the most precious things to me in my business right now is her. Like I was driving over here, and right now, like we're trying to launch our product on Amazon. We're going through all these Amazon issues with our, Amazon brand, that it's not connect. We have to present like our trademark for the brand and like all this stuff. And it's like, okay, now I need to connect the trademark people with the Amazon people with this. And I'm like, hey, she's in every meeting. She knows everything that's going on. I'm like, hey, can you make sure the Amazon and trademark people and get the information that they need to do? It'd probably take me like calling them, then later, it'd take me like probably 2 hours of my day to day on top of after this podcast. And like, she's getting it done right now, So it's like,
that's awesome.
It's like, I think that having a virtual assistant is the next best thing that someone can do after they start applying some systems to their business.
Yep. I agree. That's awesome. And yeah, I'm excited to see you continue on your journey in 2024 and beyond. It's been really fun following you guys and becoming good friends with you, and yeah, just following you guys' journey. It's been awesome to watch from the side. So
thanks, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to wrap this up,
or
else we'd be here for 3 hours. Which,
we need to do the Joe Rogan 3-hour podcast. Come on, let's go.
We'll do it at some point this year.